the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. So we have a big high alert here going on here in Oregon. We have with us Nancy Newell this morning, who has shared some shocking information. So we're going to probably be talking about that quite a bit. Thank you, Nancy, for joining us. If many of you don't know who she is, if you haven't listened to her previous awesome interviews, she's a longtime anti-nuke activist who's been pushing to stop the insanity for a long time. So thanks, Nancy, for having the fortitude to show us how to do it.
Well, I think there are people all over the world that have really woken up to the actual facts of people like Westinghouse who have gone bankrupt. That corporation has gone bankrupt. So what does that mean? That means that all these old nuclear plants operating all over the world, including in the state of Washington, what kind of parts are going to be available? Who's regulating that are people from the nuclear industry in the NRC? Trump is pro-nuclear. It's not a pretty picture. And the whole world is nervous because he is in a position to do things, and he's proving that his sanity is very questionable. So we really have to be right on target and be alert to prevent all this increase of nuclear through NuScale showing up here with the bill that just passed in part of the legislature. We had already defeated it last year, that local towns can so choose, in spite of any of the laws of the state of Oregon, to run a small modular reactor in their community. And those are a series of reactors. They keep talking as if it's only one reactor underground, and it's a series of them, and they contaminate the water, for sure, radiate the drinking water. So
any town will have the authority to put an SMR in if this passes?
Yeah, according to the way it's written, yep. And NuScale from France was having problems, too, financially, because the French are all about nuclear, and they're starting to realize with the waste overwhelming problems, they better get off it. And so things are shifting as far as economically having a free ride in France. So they come here to our legislature and to small towns that are vulnerable because employment and state funds are in debt. And why are we in debt? Well, part of it is cancer, healthcare, for goodness sake. We've got world records here in the Northwest, especially in the Portland area, breast cancer. Well, what's that attached to? Radiation from nuclear plants and the storage of waste and running it into our rivers and eating salmon that are contaminated with. Come on, people. What is the slowness on this? What is the lack of attention by the regulators and covering up the costs and talking to these corporations behind closed doors? How long is this going to continue?
Yeah, the complete denial. This is the thing that shocked me. I was out at the People's Climate March on Saturday, and I haven't uploaded it, but I have about 5 or 6 videos I made. Not one time was there one anti-nuclear comment. Not one. I mean, honestly, I had a sign that said "Free science from corporate control," and that is exactly what we need. That's the kicker in all of these things. But for people to pretend, although 350.org believes that nuclear is a viable response to coal. So I have a sneaky feeling that how this moves through the legislature is with the help of other NGOs, to be honest. This is not unheard of, Nancy. I mean, I'm beginning to wise up here on how this whole thing has creeped into our lives and gotten to be so horrible because they put NGOs' interests against each other instead of us thinking that we are all on the same side and we're going to push against coal, we're going to push against nuclear, we're going to say no to dirty, filthy, toxic energy. And that's what SMRs are. Filthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are here in
well,
Oregon. Corvallis is already radioactive. Albany is considered a fuse wrap site. You know, it's really ridiculous.
Well, Reed College has its own reactor here.
Reed in Portland?
Reed College in Southeast Portland, yes. And, these are the people who will get funding, people that can't afford it, for some very excellent education, but that aspect of Reed never changes. They never close it. They never clean up the river. It's got radiation, but it's a stream that goes by the campus. Come on. What's your point? What are you giving our future generations? 120,000 years of waste and not knowing where to put it or what to do with it, and create more and more and more. Why are you educating these young people to continue that process? It's a death wish for everybody, for animals, for the very existence of life. And they keep saying, well, global warming is we've got to concentrate on that. So I go to the Columbia Riverkeepers honorarium of Pete Seeger at the Clinton Street Theater last night, and I bring it up to the previous president as well as the current one of Columbia Riverkeeper. Why aren't they mentioning or working hard on closing that nuclear plant? You can't run around in circles like all these women do to cure cancer. Why don't you prevent it? Your body has changed dramatically with the treatments that are given. Why not prevent it? And they're not speaking out on the closure of the plant because they're saying they don't have enough staff or money to focus on it. Now that, to me, is totally counterproductive. So I'm not quite sure, and this has been a problem. I was on the Northwest, what's that group called? The one that 250 organizations, environmental and health, and I raised the issue years ago about these major corporations like Westinghouse taking over regulations so that it's meaningless, virtually meaningless, what we try to do. Why don't you stop it in the first place and close these things? So they're not talking about it. Why aren't they talking about it? So I really put it to them last night, and I'm going to keep it up with the Columbia Riverkeepers because there's no excuse for that. It's going right into the river.
What did they say?
You can't, they don't have staff and funding for it.
Yeah, I get that they don't have staff. All of us don't have staff or funding. We all don't have staff and funding, but why can't they create a volunteer? Maybe that's what we ought to do is call up the Riverkeepers and say, look, why don't you start like a campaign to get volunteers going to focus on that since you don't have the staff? See, this is the issue.
Well, they go to the Bonneville Power. Listen to this. They go to the Bonneville Power meeting. I brought that up specifically with the administrator who is responsible under the market test. He is illegally running that plant. He should be put in jail, number one. He should be sentenced. And number two, that decision has to be made. Because
say that again. Who should be put in jail? Who's illegally running what? Say that. That like ran out of your mouth.
The Power Administrator, according to Robert McCullough's book, the recent one that just came out, proving how much we're wasting money, hundreds of millions of dollars running that,
right,
and creating cancer. You can't even measure.
Wasn't that like 500? The financial cost was something like $500 million a year. It looked like they're losing millions of dollars.
Yeah, and we could go to alternative energy, and they keep promoting alternative energy for the global warming. And here's your answer. There's your cash cow. Quit putting money there. What is the problem? What is the problem? How did Governor Roberts and Christine Ervin of the DOE recognize and credit to the guy that was the chair of Portland General Electric on Trojan when those pipes were bad, and they made a wise decision, and it's paid off. And I don't get it here. We've had if you can't understand the lesson of Fukushima, I think the sanity of our public, I don't think we're getting enough oxygen or something. That's the only excuse I can give.
Well, this bill, I pulled the bill up right when you told me about it. It takes effect if it gets passed on August 1st, 2017. This is what it says. SMRs are sleek, modern technology. Oregon's new scale is doing the design and creating the brain drain in the Washington state. This is an opportunity for Washington to be the true leader in the power of the world. This is them pushing it. Wow.
Yeah. And it passed. We defeated it, I think it was a year and a half ago, something like that, whatever the last session was. And we, I was shut down. The chair of the committee would not allow me to speak, and I stayed there anyway. And I was able to speak because the 6 remaining members wanted to hear about it.
Well, let's talk about who the sponsors are.
Not to go ahead with the SMRs. They voted not to put any more money into the SMRs.
Senator Brown, Senator Baumgartner, Senator Rivers, Senator Taco, Senator King, Senator Sheldon, Senator Bailey, Senator Erickson, Senator Engel, Senator Honeyford, Senator Molosia, Senator Becker, Senator Brown, Senator Hobbs, and Senator Schlosser, all Republicans. But Baumgarten is right out of Portland, isn't he? Doesn't he represent portions of Portland?
I'm sure, yeah. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, people need to call these men and say, absolutely not. We're not playing this game.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to do mass call-ins. And you won't get Columbia Riverkeeper to do that.
Well, I know my senator in Oregon, his name is Senator Floyd Przansky. His phone number is 503-986-1704.
Great.
And
that's great. Yeah, and I'll get the information for the senator here in Portland. Can certainly put in a word from their experience from Trojan.
Who's your senator? Do you know who your senator, state senator representing Portland?
Well, I'm a victim of the 3 Mile Island accident, and I tell you what, right now my brain is not functioning as well as it should be. So names escape me that I've known for years.
Like all of us. Yeah.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah.
Senator Lookup.
We're getting chemtrails and we're getting, radiation. So.
I mean, we're getting bombarded so badly. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the sad part is people can look at the sky and not think that it's abnormal. That's how much people are out of touch.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Well, Senator, a portion of Portland is covered by the Democratic Party. His name is Senator Haas, 503-986-1714. The downside is these are all the Republicans that are doing it. Let's try to find a senator. Up there in Portland, they're all Democrats, but there's Senator Kathy Taylor, 503-986-1721. You can go to the OregonLegislature.gov, and there's an interactive map where you can just say, find my representative, and it'll take you right there. And it will, in fact, a lot of states have this. So if we're talking to people across the nation, it's imperative that you find ways to contact these people that run your state for this reason. Because these SMRs they are bleeding them into silently bleeding them into all the states, folks. They honestly, the whole thing about moving people back into Fukushima and, just putting the Cassini into the Saturn, they pointed the Cassini at Saturn. We talked about that Friday with Carl Grossman. These are all methods of normalizing it and saying, oh, well, it's just nuclear. It's no big deal if we run 72 pounds of plutonium into another planet. That's what we're going to do. I mean, that's just unconscionable to mess with their biotic sphere, their whole biotic thing that they got going on there. That's just unconscionable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. You
imagine
know that
how
they
Earth, imagine if
go
Earth
ahead.
had to experience something like that. Some creature out in the middle of the universe decided they had this thing that they were doing exploratory, and they wanted to blast 72 pounds of plutonium on our planet because their scientists said that we could take it.
Yeah. Well, you know Trump's plan for next week, the Gotham Shield, right?
Isn't that's going on right now, the Gotham Shield?
They started it early.
It was on the
Wow.
25th, the 26th, and the 27th, wasn't it? Isn't it over with, or did they not do it?
That's the one. That's the one where they were blasting this enormous blast over New Jersey and New York.
Yeah, but I think it was simulated. I don't think they're really going to do it. I think it's supposed to be
Well,
simulated.
some of the reports I got from Citizens for Legitimate News, some of the repercussions there would be windows, all kinds of things going on. So I haven't had a chance to really dig into it because I'm working.
Well,
on
it's the first thing
other.
when you start to type in Operation Gotham Shield popped right up on my thing. Maybe because we're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that has already run out. I think they did that. But see, this is the issue. What were we talking about? This is our country's favorite enemy. North Korea pops up its ugly head and scares the crap. I actually think that the North Korean government is an arm of the CIA, frankly. That's I seriously.
Could very well be.
I mean, because every time we have
try it.
something going on,
Yeah.
I mean, this is how corrupt our entire the structures are. This is why the youth. I mean, it was really interesting, Nancy, at the People's March on Saturday. The youth were singing chants about, "We are the world. We're the reason. We're the one that we're waiting for. Let's all get up and get going." And it was just like a feel good. It was like this. There was no rabble rousing about we got to stop coal. No rabble rousing about we got to stop. They were talking about the climate and how bad it is, but it was very interesting. Not one word about nuclear pollution. Nothing about Fukushima. Zero. Absolutely zero.
Yeah, absolutely. And Regna Merritt is now with Physicians for Social Responsibility, working on the radioactive aspect of things, working on the nuclear power plant, and a compromise is being developed that stretches it out to 2030 or 2050 to close that plant. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, if we had kept going with the Trojan nuclear plant, we wouldn't be sitting here talking today. We'd either be dead with cancer or without a food supply or without water, And are you kidding me? That this is a rational way to deal with these very complex problems and not act immediately? No.
Exactly.
This has got to be done. Yeah.
It has to be done.
They run around in circles for the cure, but the prevention is so obvious, and there's no excuse for it because it's 32 years old. And Fukushima, if that didn't prove anything, then everybody in this state that's in leadership should have their head examined, period. And the expense, throwing money away, our educational system, kids being transported all over the place in Portland because they're closing schools. What is this? This is complete.
Well, it's battery is what it is.
It's social engineering. Social engineering.
Well, it's just battery. It's like it's basically grooming and beating, grooming and beating, grooming and beating. And Americans have just kind of gotten used to that pattern. Like Trump's an expert at it. Like for people to say, "Oh, finally someone's dismantling the federal government." Like, really? We don't want to dismantle the federal government. What we want is to get corporation and lobby money out of the federal government so the agencies we've created can function for the American people. We want to have a stop to the no-bid contracts that George Bush installed. We want to have, when people commit crime and treason like Mike Flynn did, our elected officials immediately issue an indictment. Get that motherfucker arrested. I mean, honestly, it's treason what's happening in the White House right now. And the news came out today that Mike Pence knew about Flynn's lying. He knew.
Yeah, well, The only problem is we better get a replacement that's real, because the Clintons brought Enron in here.
Right, exactly.
And,
well, the Clintons were this is how Trump ended up being elected, because the Clintons were so repulsive. People who were reasonable minded said, you know what, Trump's a misogynist and a bastard, but he's not near as bad as Clinton. I mean, they were completely offensive. I didn't vote for her. There's no way I could have.
So what does our Rose Parade honor here? Our Rose Parade honors the military.
That's right. And let's talk about this. You know, in June, the military is going to be coming in through Portland, and there's it's not being sponsored by No Nukes Northwest, but No Nukes Northwest is asking people, you know, if they want to join them, that they're going to be out there, and they want to have kayakers, because we want to have kayakers, and all of us in Oregon. It's called the resistance movement to the military machine. It's not No Nukes Northwest specifically.
My friend, I'm a member of them. I do the educating in the schools.
And by the way, No Nukes Northwest is actually looking for kayaks so that they can, in case anybody wants to show up with them, they'll have kayaks. So, you know, you can contact the No Nukes. It's NONUKESNW.org if anybody wants to help that organization. And I think Heidi told me specifically they are not sponsoring it, but they are definitely trying to gather up, just in case there's other kayakers that want to show up. They want to put people in touch with kayaks, because a lot of people don't have kayaks.
Yeah, they've been doing this year after year. John Greshow was one of the War Resistors League, was one of the initiators of it, and he runs a program in the schools where we're allowed to go in and educate them, students, on the real facts of signing up in a military contract. And so we have counter literature. We talk to students, and we get an opportunity. For years, they shut us out. The school board shut us out. And so we still got a toe in. We still go to all these different, anytime a recruiter shows up from any part of the forces, we are there, giving them alternative information, wonderful pamphlets. The Quakers are a big part of the funding, and the Friends group that's up here located in Portland is very active. So it's about 25 or 30 people now that will circulate through the schools and carry out this program.
Awesome.
And sometimes they play games and won't, you know, somebody in the administration tries to keep us out. Well, they can't do that. So it's been very effective,
look,
and it brings up nuclear war.
I found the phone number for Ted Ferrioli. I think that's how we pronounce his name. He's the Republican Senate leader. And no doubt he's pushing this SMR thing. Let me give out his phone number so that people can call him and tell him that nuclear is not clean. We do not want SMRs. And the people of Oregon are staunchly anti-nuclear and know that it's a big, huge waste of our money. And we want them to stop it. And don't bring up the medical. They don't care about the medical. They're all in denial. What you have to talk about is the money. Whenever you deal with these people, you have to tell them it has not been proven. They do not even have one functioning SMR available. We don't want them starting them here in Oregon that we haven't even seen them start working correctly in Idaho. So that phone number is 503-986-1950.
Yeah, and then I wonder how many Catholics are in the legislature, because Pope Francis in 2015 did his ecclesiastical speech. He does it every year, and here's the one that he gave. In the face of possible risks to the environment, which may affect the common good now and in the future, decisions must be made based on a comparison of the risks and benefits foreseen for the various possible alternatives. Some projects can profoundly affect the quality of life of an area due to very different factors, and one of those that is most serious is the effects of nuclear energy use. And
wow.
He's talking about electricity and also bombs. Yeah, 2015. So I called the diocese up in Hanford area. They won't even talk to me.
Why won't they talk to you?
Because they're afraid, and because most of the people are employed there, at the Hanford plant. The city of Kennewick one of the Tri-Cities up there is the fourth fastest growing city in the country because people are desperate for work and they'll come into this highly radioactive area to get a good paying job.
People don't know it's radioactive. When you drive up there, it's so beautiful. I was taken aback when I
Yeah.
drove up there. It is really a magnificently beautiful area of Oregon. Like Oregon's beautiful, but you drive through, you pull over the mountain into that little valley where it's at, and you're like, it's breathtaking. It's beyond
Yes.
breathtaking how beautiful it is. So when people move there, they don't feel like you don't feel it. Let's just put it to you that way. You don't feel it. And you don't understand the gravity of it because it might not affect your generation. Like, this is the saddest part. Our children, their medical conditions are not even being identified as having been caused by nuclear pollution. That's the scary part.
Mm-hmm.
All these kids are getting sick. They're being born with holes in their heart, microencephaly, diabetes, schizophrenia. Kids getting schizophrenia at like 11, 12, 13. Schizophrenia is normally onset at 21, 22, but nuclear contamination has it starting super early. It is John Goffman identified that. So these things, this is just an unconscionable act for people just to click their brains off and go, oh, well, the government says it's okay. Really, that's what I used to say. I didn't know. I honestly did not know. I really did not know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know that I called the Midwife Birth Center after Pope Francis came out with his ecclesiastical in 2015, and they're located in the Tri-Cities, and the woman who owns that particular service answered the phone, and her response was, I said, why are you not documenting and educating people on the impacts of low-level radiation, let alone the impacts of all the waste that's been there for so long? And she completely denied that there was a problem. Can you believe that?
Wow.
She is a midwife.
What'd she say?
She said she got very defensive and critical of the things that I was talking about and the facts that I had about all the contamination, the effect of low-level and high-level radiation, how difficult it's. There's no place to put it. There's no solution for the waste. And she just completely denied it all. I was in shock. I didn't expect it.
You didn't expect it? She works there. She's a midwife. She has to deny it.
Well,
does she not know?
Did
she know that?
Generally,
did she know that radioactive contamination harms infants worse?
Well, but they, the midwives in the whole Shoreham, when we went through that whole Shoreham, preventing it from ever operating, were there in force. So I'm not quite understanding, where is the training different in the state of Washington for midwives? That, to me, is another takeover of the system. And when you're economically involved so heavily in this, you become blind, and then you end up with all the health care problems, and you still don't correct it. It doesn't make sense. But the workers at the plant are finally coming public on how sick they are. And you know what's happening? They're being denied their health care benefits. Can you believe that?
I can believe it.
They have horrible cancers, and they are being denied the very money they put in that they should be covered to at least heal, try to heal. And they're being denied it. So they're finally starting to speak out more about it, finally. And that is happening.
It is completely shocking. It's shocking that, well, this is the thing. People can come out and say how sick they are, but are they going to get any help? Look at just the citizens of St. Louis. They're dropping off like flies, and the federal government's completely in denial. And their own state legislature, run by Roy Blunt's son. Roy Blunt's son, who's Senator Roy Blunt, federal Senator Roy Blunt's son, works for Republic Services, who is the polluter. So this is really, it is an unconscionable act. To me, what's going on in our country, in my view, is serious treason. These people are intentionally harming our country. Isn't that the definition of treason? Like they're
Yeah.
intentionally harming us. Red alert, they're attacking our children, frankly. Because
Mhm.
the we're not going to I've already passed my reproductive life, but my children and my grandchildren, their grandchildren are going to be affected. Period. No
Mhm.
matter what. So I'm going to give the phone number out to Senator Tim Knopp, Knopp. I don't know if you say it's Knopp, but he is the state senator for Bend, in case anybody out there in Bend. And it's 503-986-1727, and tell him no to New Scale. No to New Scale. That just has to
Mhm.
happen. You know,
Mhm. Yep.
Klamath Falls is 503-986-1721. It's Lynn Lynn Thicum, Linthicum. You guys elected him, so you should know how to say his name. Lynn Thicum. What part of the world are you? And I'll find your senator. You're in
Me?
Portland. Yeah.
Portland, Northeast Portland.
Okay. So you no doubt have a Democratic senator like mine, Floyd Przansky here in Eugene. In fact, I'll find
They're
Floyd
no
Przansky.
bargain. They need to be called. They're no bargain.
Well,
They
not
need to be called.
exactly, because they think that nobody's paying attention. My representative is Senator Floyd Przansky, who was, I know, super left. I would be shocked if he supported this, but
Mhm.
his phone number is 503-986-1704. So these people have got to be called. People, and even if you're not in, like, let's say you're somewhere around it, you still call. Even if you're from Washington, even if you're from an outside state, still call these people, because the threat from the SMRs will affect you. I mean, this is the thing. We need no more nuclear waste being developed on this planet, period. None. Zero.
Yeah.
Zero tolerance for nuclear waste. Zero. Have them invent a nuclear power facility that will not create toxic waste. I'm all about it. But until then, we've
Yeah.
got enough. And we have Senator Alan DeBear out of Ashland, by the way, is 503-986-1703. So if anybody doesn't get to hear anyone that you want to call, just go have some curiosity about it, because these SMRs need to be stopped in Oregon. This is an outrage that they're going behind the will of the people. And,
Yep. Yep.
trying to, this
Yeah.
is in fact how dirty the nuclear industry really is. They always do this. They don't care what anybody does. They are willing to kill anybody and anything. They have no regard for human life or life on this planet. They're killing the Columbia River and they don't care. They're doing nothing. They're
Well,
denying and killing the workers at Hanford, denying health
yeah,
care
but
for those people.
it's the silence of, I mean, you've got
Yeah,
a Democratic
majority.
governor in both states.
That's
It's
right.
the silence that's allowing this to go forward. That's why people have to call and shout and carry on. We're portrayed as if we're nutcases.
Yeah.
Well, who's the
Yeah.
nutcase? Who's
Right.
the nutcase? Who wants to waste all this money? We don't have to waste all this money. We've got all the answers. Robert McCullough has written an excellent report and presented it to council, and our mayor agrees. And I think we're going to have a resolution very soon. And closing the CGS. But they talk about it in forms of, alternative businesses, renewables, energy efficiencies, and so does the BPA administrator. But he won't close the plant, and he won't talk about it publicly. And there was a public meeting with Robert McCullough, Chuck Johnson, and the administrator, and he fully agreed with their arguments, and then he does nothing. He lets it keep operating. So we should arrest him. We should do a citizen's arrest on him, and we should do a citizen's arrest on Trump and any Democrat, because there are a ton of them that are involved in nuclear weapons and huge defense budgets. Way too many. And in our own legislature, they shut me down in that one committee, but it backfired on them. So I think we'll be able to stop this completely, and that's what we have to do. We have to just stop it. And Westinghouse bankruptcy, we have to bring attention to how are we going to keep this thing under control as it's shut down. We can't have Westinghouse on that contract because they make parts and they want to do business. That's all they care about. They don't care about the planet. They don't care about the animals. They don't care about babies, malformed babies. They don't care about mothers with breast cancer. They don't care about any of that. That's outrageous. They're criminals. How many are in jail? Not that many. Nobody's in jail. I don't think that any. So,
well, that's in fact why I'm going to college, Nancy, because of the Price-Anderson Act. Because the Price-Anderson Act keeps them all out of jail. They can do anything they want. They have complete impunity. It does not matter who they kill. It's murder. It's legalized murder. It's legalized murder, death, kill. That's all it is. It's outrageous.
Yeah, Dr. John Goffman. Do you know that they've taken the record? You can't get the record that they documented the impacts of low-level radiation after the 3 Mile Island accident, and it no longer is kept in congressional record. You can't get the file.
Not even through the Freedom of. Can you get it through the Freedom of Information Act?
Well, apparently there's been some destruction, and I'm checking all this, but not like it used to be. Not all that detailed information. I mean, if you got a Trump running that office and all the creeps that he brings in.
The shredders are going. This is the thing about the Trump administration. The shredders are going 24 hours a day. They are seriously shredding everything that they're doing along their path, and probably very much like what happened on the nuclear industry in the very beginning. When I read this article on my YouTube channel, I found it. It's called It came to me, and I ordered John Goffman's books to mail out to people because people won't do it. So I go buy them used, and then if someone wants it, I'll just mail it to them. So in one of those shipments, I got this free study called Human Radiation Studies, Remembering the Early Years. And it was conducted by the Department of Energy in 1995 because the new head of the agency, her name was Irene, let me find her name. It was unbelievable that she had the integrity to do this. She basically got in and discovered that all of the information on human radiation studies was just strewn everywhere. She couldn't find a single signed document authorizing the testing of humans. So she decided to go back to her name was Secretary of Energy Hazel R. O'Leary, who in my view is a hero because she gathered some of vital information. She did oral histories. She had them interview all of the participants of the Manhattan Project and give their point of view about what was going on, because this is their method in the nuclear industry. Disregard, shred, don't care. I mean, John Goffman documented himself how our own military shredded the information on women and children in Japan and Hiroshima. Yeah, they went in, took all the pictures. They looked like they were doing the right thing. When they got their results, they went, oh, shit, man, this stuff has to go. Right through the shredder it went, man. Destroyed all of it. I mean, this is really war on our country from the new. I believe that I've been saying this. We're in World War III, folks, and we're the target. The American people and the masses are the target. All wars target the masses. But in the United States, the nuclear industry has been targeting us for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and Westinghouse going bankrupt, how much are we going to be required to pay to bail them out? Huh?
Well, you're not only the bailout, Nancy. I hadn't even thought about the spare parts with Westinghouse going bankrupt.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
That'll be one of the excuses, I'm sure. Oh, no, we have to have those parts. Oh, my gosh, we'll have horrible things happening all over the place. It's up to us. What do you mean it's up to us? Go take those people out of their expensive homes, the CEOs, the ones that support this stuff, like Paulson in our own city.
What do you mean it's up to us?
The Paulsons in our own city. Come on. This is Chase Bank. Chase Bank is dirty all over this. And
yes.
Yeah, let's do a visit and do a citizen's arrest on them too.
Well, you know what we ought to do? We ought to start a camp. I mean, actually, maybe this is something that we should do in the summertime. Heidi suggested that instead of going on vacation and going out, when you go out and do your camping and your family vacationing, take one day and park yourself on the sidewalk in front of one of these, people's houses and park on their lawns and just park. You can camp anywhere 24 hours a day, right? So she's like, just go to the state capitals and camp for one day, just park out and say, hey, this is a protest, and park it and just go do it.
Oh, here's something that was really startling that just happened recently. We've been having the protests here in Portland and trying to get attention to the homeless, taking care of veterans, taking care of people that can't afford the health care. And so the Trump supporters had to show a show of force. So they went over to 82nd in a little park there, and maybe 50 people were there, and they put themselves in a tennis court that was netted up to 12 feet high. They looked like they were actually being held hostage in their own tennis court. And then we were the counter-protesters. So the police show up, and what do? They get the motorcycle group so that they can march about 2.5 miles. They use their motorcycles in order to get them through the traffic on one side and keep the counter demonstrators on the other side through the whole walk. And what do they do at the end? The mayor makes sure that those demonstrators that are horrific with their ideas get a TriMet bus ride back to their parked car area. And I'm not kidding you. And this is the riot cops out. Two loads of riot cops. You know how they stand on a car all the way around that truck car kind of thing? All suited up. Rode with them, keeping the two separate all the way down. And the mayor Wheeler walks through at one point in the park we were at while speeches were being made to check things out and make sure that there is not some kind of major conflict. So, and there wasn't. But the whole way that they were protected, I mean, they go after protesters, they go after babies, they sprayed. Our city uses a war crime chemical in tear gas now that the entire world has said don't use it. We've signed the UN treaty not to use it, and we're using it in Portland. Now, check that out. And
what are they using? What are they using, Nancy?
Once again, I haven't noted it, but something like CVS, something that's cancer causing, it can blind you, it can do all kinds of things. You can't breathe when you get sprayed with it. They sprayed the Morrison Bridge with it when he was started as mayor.
And yet we hear that Portland's like this big progressive town. What's up with that? How did that guy get elected mayor?
Well, look at this. Guess who he gave the interest on our water instead of getting the money back out of the federal treasury for our water pipes to be repaired, which they've avoided repairing, the Democrats, for 100 years. And they give it to the banks to earn interest. Now, Detroit and New Orleans especially, they kicked out these banks that did the same thing with the water and the levee and all. They caused the problem, and then they get the interest on fixing it, so they kicked them out. In New Orleans, after Katrina, all these people that were suffering had the energy to do that. I mean, it's just amazing. Food and Water Watch was part of that. You may want to look up that story. But, yeah, here we are in Portland with a state treasurer who became our mayor and supports interest to the banks for our Bull Run water repair. When the federal money, he just gets it. Other states, through Food and Water Watch, are getting that money right into their coffers that we've already paid in. What's that all about? And he defends it like crazy. He will stand up, and I've taken it on, 3-minute testimony at City Council about 3 times now.
How many people do you think show up? How many people show up regularly at the City Council in Portland?
Usually it's about 20. It's been more so because of groups like Mimi Guerin's groups and Teresa Rayford and
I can't wait.
I'm probably 100.
I hope they can come on my show and update us on their work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look, Nancy, we have about 10 minutes left, and I really want to thank you for joining us because this is really urgent. Like, people really need to call the Oregon State Legislature today. It matters today. You have to find out and call them and say, hey, I'm living in Nevada and I don't want SMRs in Oregon because that's going to affect the entire country. It does affect the entire country to have more nuclear waste, even if this is the thing, burying it underground gets it into our groundwater. That's the seriousness of it. You think they're going to build these things adequately so that it's not going to get into our groundwater worse than it already is? Like, at what point are they going to continue to contaminate our water? At what point will we not even be able to drink our water? If we do not stop them now, then when?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, we're not going to be able to. Hey, I want to read this poem that is kind of like my guiding star in life. I found it about, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, actually. So this is how it goes. It was written in the Depression era. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Hold on. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure turns about when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to the faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse, you must not quit. So there
you go. Do I have a minute here?
Yes, we have 10 minutes.
Okay, so Sam Adams, the mayor for a while, and then he had to leave the city. He's in Washington, D.C. with an environmental group. But he did a really bright thing with the sustainability issues that he raised and anti-nuclear issues that he raised. And he had people from all over the world with different experiences come in. Well, Germany, the woman chancellor, we should do the same thing now and have it all over the state of Oregon with the woman chancellor who says no nukes. No nukes. We're going to take them all down. And they've got 5 of them, and she's taken down 2 already, closing overnight. So there was a fellow that I talked to at this conference, it was at least 6 years ago, from Denmark, who was on the panel and describing all the financial. They're the biggest financier for alternatives in the world, this bank in Denmark, and real alternatives, not these phony, cover-ups that happen too often. But yeah, I had a talk with him. I had a chance to take him aside. I said, so did you really cover the full truth on our city and this, what's actually happening with the money? And he said, no, I couldn't do that. He said, mainly my intent was to show how much potential. Just shift the money. Come on. Shift it over to the good things. You can get it solved overnight practically. Come on. Who are you kidding? So when Westinghouse goes bankrupt, if they ask us to bail them out, we should raise holy hell. Excuse my expression, but that's what we should do because they should be all locked up. Just lock them up. That's the end of them. And
they're not going to get locked up. They're not going to get locked up. Not. You know why? Again, the Price-Anderson Act. They can do whatever they want. None of them are ever going to be locked up.
Change the laws. Change the laws.
That's why I'm going to school. Exactly. And you know how hard that is to change the laws. Our Senator Jeff Merkley actually has legislation that he prepared to change that very fact. That was his first bill he submitted on the floor of the Senate when he went to Washington, D.C. You know who stopped it from even getting to the floor? Ron Wyden and Mitch McConnell. And all it would have done, he was amending the Price-Anderson Act to make somebody accountable, to hold someone accountable for knowingly breaking the law. That's All he
Mhm.
wanted to change. He didn't want to raise the cap. He didn't want to say, we're going to come after you and fine you. He just said, we want to hold those individuals as the licensees who knowingly break the law to be held accountable like anybody else. And
Mhm.
Ron Wyden and Mitch McConnell stopped it.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is why
Yeah.
it's
You heard
important
about
for us to call. That's why it's important for everybody to call the Oregon legislature to stop the SMRs. That's what I think.
Senator Hatfield. He was a big advocate of no nuclear weapons. Also trying to, part of the reason the decision that was made by PGE to get off the plant, Senator Hatfield had discussions with them. So his legacy is pretty strong. But then he went and did something really kind of oddly stupid, because our ocean beaches are so protected still with preventing commercial development or gas plants or all that stuff, or nuclear plants. And Senator Hatfield decides to retire and takes a section of the beach down in a little town on the coast, and he's building a house with, I guess, 3 or 4 other people. So he has a beautiful view to retire to, etc., which he's done wonderful work. That's true. But the town was really upset because, first of all, it blocked their view, and secondly, they told him, don't do it because your house isn't going to be able to last there very long, because they had experienced all the global warming conditions that were sweeping away the coast. Sure enough, his house was swept away. Practically all done. The houses that were being built there were swept away.
No way.
So, yeah, that's a true story.
Wow.
And this is the guy, nuclear weapons, he got great communications all over the world, and then attached nuclear power to it because that's what feeds the nuclear weapons program. And, yeah, so isn't that something? Sometimes, I don't know, the balances and rebalances, even within me, I try to triple check myself, how I'm acting, what I'm doing. But somebody's tampering with and somebody years ago on the Trojan thing threatened my life, called in when I did a cable show. And at the end of the show, I was walking out and I answered the phone, and he said, yeah, I'm going to kill you. I said, well, you're going to kill me anyway. So we have a disagreement, but I'm going to make sure that plant closes. So just keep that in your bonnet. I'm not afraid. So he never called came around my house. But now I'm getting my car tampered with steadily. So
really?
Yeah.
What's happening with you?
Several times. My brakes now sound funny. Suddenly I had a loss of oil in my car.
Have you gone to a mechanic?
Little
You
things
can't.
they did this real obvious. They took the rubber gasket that looks like a coffee cup cover, a little bit bigger, off my headlight inside. They had to go inside the engine to do that, and they put it under my latch for my hood, so I couldn't open or close the hood. So they're trying to psych me out.
When did that happen? When did that happen? That's a weird thing.
Over the last 2 months. Yep.
That's
I don't care. I'm
intentional.
still here. I'm still in the same house. They're killing me with radiation. It's all over my face now. It's starting to break out, and you expect that. But I'm really wise because I ate organic foods and I took care of myself and do exercise, and I've managed to push it off. But I'm going to get tested again because I'm borderline as far as ovarian cancer. But yeah, it's whoever's doing this, I'm trying to get cameras in, and I hate to do that, but I think I'll probably do that to see if I can spot anything.
Yeah, you just need a little dash cam in your car. Just put a dash cam. Actually, you should have one going backwards and forwards, right, on the back of your car and in the front of your car, if you really want to protect your car, because otherwise they could do something to the back.
Are they expensive?
Because Patty Amino had her brakes cut when she was working on their case. So I mean, if she hadn't have been known how to drive, she probably could have killed herself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's this is really but you know what, Nancy, this is par for the course. They're murdering millions of people every day. They don't care. And if you get in their way, they just get rid of you. You're completely insignificant. We are like ants. We're like these little ant trails, how we indiscriminately murder all these ants every time they come into our kitchen.
And people poo-poo that. People will poo-poo that and not even admit that it's happening. That's the sad part. It's the
Well,
silence and the fear that's the sad part.
you know
Where
what?
are the people that are standing up?
I was thinking about this, how Rachel Carson wrote that book, Silent Spring, right?
Yeah.
She certainly didn't mean for us to be silent. Maybe that was the bad title, Silent Spring, because it unconsciously made people silent. Because really, people are silent and they acquiesce and they're like, well, what are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. We have to wait. There's nothing. And the other part of it is, if you get cancer and you're on most insurance companies, your only option is one thing: radiation or chemotherapy. You cannot say, I want to do cleansing, I want to do juicing, I want to do high levels of vitamin C, I want to do cannabis. None of it. It's all nuclear, nuclear, nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge industry shoving nuclear into our veins and into our bodies. Huge. This is why the pharmaceutical company, the chemical company, this month on the 24th, I'm going to be interviewing Erica Dugan from Oklahoma. She called me up. Her family has been terribly poisoned by probably fracking chemicals. Mm-hmm. Terribly harmed. They had to move their family. They spent so much time and the government just kept telling him it was them. It was their fault. Something they were doing. It was sad. And really, the war is on us. It's time for us to stop. So how do you keep going on?
How I became active.
How do you keep going?
I became active. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you keep going? We have like 3 minutes left. I want you to tell people how to find.
I was very shy of public speaking, and once you get over that, after 3 Mile Island, I got over it. And I did speeches at the county legislature that said Shoreham will never operate, and the governor agreed. Governor Cuomo, who's the father of Andrew, who's trying to close Indian Point. But, it was really something for me to overcome that fear of public speaking.
So you go to the state legislature.
They haven't been able to shut me up, have they?
Thank God for that.
I'm no great hero. Don't get me wrong. I get concerned about some of these things.
So you go to the legislatures. That's what you do. You go to like city council meetings, the state legislatures. You go to those types of meetings. Is that where you show up?
Yeah, and I'm going to show up at Bonneville on their 2028 focus because not one environmental group is talking about nuclear. How about that? All those environmental groups involved in planning for Bonneville's 2028 future. And it's called 2028 Focus or something like that.
What day?
I don't know when the next meeting is. I'll have to get that to you, but you can call up the administrator's office and they'll give it to you.
Okay, the 2028.
And you may not be allowed in the meeting. You may not be allowed in the meeting. You have to check, make sure you give them a reason for being there and all that. And, they go through the whole security ridiculousness while you get cleared to go through their system.
Oh, you mean you have to get a background check?
No, you have to go through those machines that affect your body.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to go through those every time I enter a IRS office, so I'm sort of used to that. Yeah. That's like compliance is your friend, Well, Nancy, we have 30 seconds left. I hope you'll come back soon because this is a great conversation, and I think you help people learn how to become an activist, and I love that. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your show.
Okay, well, thank you. And put your courage feet on, you guys. Take action. Democracy only works if you do. Lean into it. It does matter.
UC Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.